All right. We are here with Brandon, the Basher Foster, and he is my Bostonian interpreter for my book, which is now coming on audio. And what we did is this is a special section, which is bonus footage. And Brandon is kind enough to read the book, and then he has questions at the end of the book. So let's get into chapter 8. And what do we? Was there a number on? Is there a name for chapter 8? I forget. Should I grab my book? Oh, there probably wasn't, right?
I have mine here. Hold on. Chapter
Doesn't
8.
matter.
Chapter 8.
What is-
I
what-
don't. I don't think there was anything a name for
no.
it.
So let's go. Let's dive into it. Chapter 8. You have questions.
Okay. Number 1. Last time we chatted a little bit about movies. Could you tell me some of your favorites growing up?
Great question. We had a thing on Saturday called Creature Double Feature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
we were talking
my
about
dad
that.
was my dad was wicked into it, and it was Godzilla, King Kong, Creature from the Black Lagoon. So probably some of my favorite ones were the old King Kong movie, the very first Godzilla movie. Some of those old Japanese, Godzilla stomping the cities and stuff. It looks so fake, but it was hysterical to me. That's definitely some of them. And then other favorite movies, my father, Don Knotts was a big thing back then, and Dad used to love those Don Knotts movies, and he was a comedian. He was on Mayberry or the Andy Griffin Show, and he was like he was this goofy deputy, and stuff like that was hysterical. Like one of my favorite ones was the Ghost of Mr. Chicken, where he was a realtor or something, went in this house, and all this stuff happened to him, and they thought the house was haunted, and it really wasn't. And he did like a karate move on like a door and something, and that stuff like that was hysterical. My father loved war movies, I could because he served in Korea as a mortar specialist, and I still remember the day he took me to see Midway at the what we thought was the biggest theater ever. It was a two cinema in Chelsea, and I still remember that day that we went there. I think it was $1.
Wow, that's cheap.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I think was it before? I don't. I'm trying to remember when Star Wars was released. I think it was '79. So, and then Rocky, of course. I mean, I grew up 1975. I saw Rocky. That was like I can't tell you how many times I've seen Rocky. Funny thing is, some of the neighborhood kids saw Jaws, and my parents wouldn't let me see it, which I'm actually glad. I didn't see it until I was older. And then obviously Abbott and Costello, the Three Stooges, stuff like that.
Yeah, have you seen any of the newer Godzilla King Kong movies? Just because you're interested in the older ones.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
What,
absolutely.
what about the new Creed movies?
Which ones?
The Creed movies, like the new
Oh yeah,
Rocky sort of
absolutely, absolutely.
spin-off. Yeah. Okay. Uh, did you do any other jobs in your childhood apart from your paper route?
Yeah, I worked every Sunday. I worked at my father's flea market, like lot, and like was all day. He picked me up at like I go over. My mother would drop me off at 8, and it was all day there. And I had the little change thing, and I was the hook, as they called it. I was a kid selling the axe handles, and I was all cute. Axe handles, oak axe handles, a buck. And I would start schmoozing with them. Oh, you want some tools? Go. Yeah, my uncle's in the back, and my uncle would close them. That's how I learned a lot about sales. That and the paper route. Um, After that, one of the worst jobs in the world. I was a dishwasher at this restaurant that, like, excuse me, my parents and I used to eat at, and had roaches. The roaches were like,
Oh,
yeah, and I'm like, I never ate there again. And then when I got a little older, I was dating somebody that was here from Florida, and I got friendly with her family, and they gave me a job at their aunt, wherever it was, their restaurant when I was 16, Italian restaurant. So I worked in Italian restaurants from the age of 16 to 23. So that's how I know how to cook, because it's not like, oh, this, half of this, half of this. This is how Italians go. Needs more garlic.
I wouldn't know the first thing about cooking,
Well,
honestly.
you should
I wish
start.
I could do it.
You should start sooner than later.
I wish I could do it. Uh, could you describe more how you felt whenever you opened the present, revealing your father's ring and cuffs?
I don't know. It's hard to put that into words. Um, it felt like a piece of him was with me always. Always there. I mean, I haven't taken off. You can see, I don't take off this ring ever. You know,
Wow.
it's grown around my finger. My ex-wife should say, I'm going to have it expand. You should have it expand. I'm like, nope. I've never taken it off even for surgery. They wheel me in. We need to take that off. I'm like, you're not taking that off. I said, give me first aid tape. I taped it. Something happens. I die in this table. I die in this table.
Wow.
I don't take,
That's
I don't take this ring off.
wow.
This ring has never left my hand. Not in 42 years.
That's incredible. I've never heard of that.
That's my way of honoring my father. You know, his name is on the business. I carry the name.
Okay. Chapter 9. What do you think would have happened if you didn't discover karate?
I would have went down the wrong path. I was angry, depressed, scared, the whole 9 yards. I mean, I get into it later on. I mean, when you're a teenager back then, people started drinking, people started doing this, and given the environment and given how hard we struggled, when I got older, I was going down that path. Absolutely. And then when I hit 18, we were partying over a friend's house, and I said to myself, I said, you know what? I need to stop doing this. At 18, I had an epiphany. I need to stop doing this. It's costing me X amount of money. It's not healthy. And it's just not, it's just not smart. And I stopped doing it for a while. You know, it's a solve for the pain. You know what I mean? You think you're solving the pain and you're not the pain. One thing I learned over time, and this is from one of my mentors, Coach Lee Jordan, who used to be 400 pounds and weighs 200, very, very spiritual. He said to me about a year ago, he said, I've realized now in my 60s, pain is temporary, suffering is a choice. You cut yourself, but it goes away. So it's almost the same up here, right? And after going through my depression, everything else, you kind of realize that it's just, there's a concept in yoga, or martial arts, it's just for now. It is just for now. Every storm will pass. Every storm has its ending, its beginning and end. One thing we can count on is the sun goes up, the sun goes down. And that's the way it is. So that's why Burn Kearns originally, there was the arc and the whole bit, because it was my whole thing was the burning desire, burning inspiration. And every day it's kind of like, I don't know if you did this when you were a kid, when you still are a kid, you would do something, play something. Oh, can we do over? Let's do over. So I look at this way, every time that sun comes up, it's a do over. Whatever you did yesterday doesn't matter, because in my world, like about 10 years ago, I've been saying this for a while, I think certain words should be taken out of the English dictionary. Shoulda, coulda, would've, can't, and won't. And impossible should be cut in half. I'm possible. Because when you look at should've, could've, and would've, it's judgment. I should have done this. I could have. You're judging yourself. You're judging yourself. And there's something weird about that it's like, and people, look, I hate to tell you this here as a young man, but you're probably going to know this. You're going to come across trauma.
Yeah.
I can tell you, it's part of life. Life is not fair. Shit happens. It's bad. And it's going to be up to you to decide how long you're going to grieve, whatever it is. Everybody comes under trauma. It's part of human existence. It just is. It just is.
It's impossible to avoid.
It's impossible. And the funny thing is, there's a great line from Tony Robbins. Humans will do more to avoid pain than to experience pleasure. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
And so it's a, as they call it, a dichotomy. It's like, there's always going to be an opposite. Like if we have a magnet, you can cut that magnet as thin as possible. There's always going to be a north and south. There always is. It's the epitome of yin and yang. People see the yin and yang symbol, they don't understand what it means. You have dark, which is strength, with a little bit of hard with soft, and then white with a little black. That means soft with hard. And martial arts is a perfect example of that. It can't always be hard. It can't always be soft. Like I've played with Tai Chi masters that will kick your ass and it looks like nothing, And then I've seen Muay Thai guys that can go smooth. They look at Tony Ya, smooth and controlled. And it's like, that doesn't look like Muay Thai. So I think this is right from Matthew McConaughey. Life ain't easy. It's never meant to be, ain't gonna be. And it's tough. It's hard. And you are entitled to zero. You are entitled to zero. And it's basically how you interpret your experience.
Yeah. Do you think Burn with Kearns would be here right now if it wasn't for karate back then and your Uncle Henry?
Nope.
Yeah.
Because karate did something for me. And I wrote this years ago. I was like a lion. I was so angry I needed to be fed. I needed something. And like Billy Osbrook says, channel it. You're angry, good, use it. And I did. I found something to use it. Anger is not a bad thing if it's channeled correctly. All it is energy. And everything is energy, right? Everything is energy, And anger happens. You're going to get angry. You're going to get frustrated. And then you manage it. So there's a great theory from Buddha's brain. I explained this to your father. It's what's called first dart, second dart theory. First dart is what happens to you. Somebody says something, you get hurt. Second dot is your response versus your reaction. Okay, so that's a very funny word, right? People want to, especially in today's society, people want to react. Oh, I got to text them right back. I got to fire this off, right? I got to answer this right away. No, you don't. If you lengthen the time between the first dot, what happens to you, and the second dot, you'll be better off. But we have this instant gratification society. And going to martial arts, I mean, I've been in and out of martial arts for 42 years now. 42 years.
I'm very guilty of I'm very guilty of having to just react to things on text messages and calls like that. I'm quite guilty of that sometimes,
Well, you know what? You're a smart young man because that's what's called ownership. At least we all have our shortcomings, right? We all do.
Yeah.
Okay. Things that we don't like about ourselves that we want to improve. Okay. To identify that at 13 and 14 is a good thing, right? Some people spend their entire lives, Brandon, not being able to own their shit. Own it.
Okay.
Own it. Okay, I did it. Yeah, it was me. I own it. I screwed up. Okay. And that's why it's called an apology. That's why it's called a mistake, because you learn from that. If you don't learn from that, then you're stupid.
Yeah. You need to learn from your mistakes and improve. And
are they mistakes or are they just life experiences? It's like what I say with one of my talks. How do you know what hot is until you put yourself on the stove? How do you know what sharp is until you cut yourself? How do you know what failure is until you fall flat in your face? How do you know what winning is until you've lost?
Yeah, I think we touched upon that last time, actually. It's a very good quote, actually. I like that.
Well, think about it, right? Today now they have participation trophies. I'm like, really? I'm like, I hate to tell you, this is a Billy Osbrook quote. I'm going to quote this in Les Brown. There are winners, there are losers, and there are people that have not been taught how to win.
I've seen a lot of comedy skits online of just people talking about how people just get medals for showing up to a football match or a well done badge for just reading one page of a book. It's quite funny. The way you described your reaction to your uncle telling you that he was bullied growing up, you were surprised. Did you see your uncle as a sort of a tough guy?
Uncle Henry was kind of like a wiry martial art guy. You could tell he could just handle himself, but he was always having a good time. And he went into the Navy and that helped him a lot. And I think people, my biggest regret is never serving. Because I wish I did. I think everybody should serve at least 2 years because it doesn't matter what race, what religion you are, how rich, how poor you are. You go there, you start from zero. And you got to make your bed. You got to listen to orders. You got to follow commands, and you have to be a team. That's life.
Yeah. You said make in your bed there, and just that reminded me of my dad showed me this video the other day, and it was a very famous motivational speech I don't know who was speaking it, but it was quite an older one, and he was talking about how making your bed every morning gives you this like positive energy, and it makes you want to do more
Was that the
good.
was that the admiral?
I think it was, yeah. He was talking about the army.
Well, no, he was talking about the Navy SEALs.
Yeah, the Navy SEALs making their bed every morning, and then they went into this training thing and all that. I just thought it was very interesting. It was a really good speech, actually.
Well, the interesting speech about that is he talked about one of the classes, boat crew. So Navy SEALs have an 80% dropout rate, 80%.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it's hell. I've worked with
Yeah.
operators. I know operators. It's hell. And he kept commenting about having a task. And one of the boat crews they called them the munchkins because they had small feet and small flippers. But those munchkins lasted everybody. They were the first through everything. They were the ones that lasted the longest. And his whole take was, it doesn't matter the size of your flipper, it's the size of your heart.
Yeah. And just talking about how hell the Navy SEALs was also reminded me of the Bear Grylls book, Blood, Sweat and Tears, and he went through SAS training. And reading, I didn't understand how much torture SAS training was until I read things like that, and also watched a couple of shows about it. My goodness, the things they go through and the things they have to do, it's just really a surprise that anyone can do it, honestly.
It's all mind. It's all mindset.
Yeah.
It's up in your skull. You choose. You just choose. There's a great book out there, Man's Search for Meaning, by Dr. Frankl, Viktor Frankl. He was a doctor that was in Auschwitz. They tortured him every day for years. And at one point, we're talking breaking bones, the whole 9 yards. One point, he came to an epiphany. You can hurt my body, but you can't hurt who lives inside this body. You can't hurt me.
Yeah. You have to have a very strong mind or very strong will.
Yeah, like the typical Rambo type for the Navy SEALs isn't the one that passes. It's the one that looks like your dad. They're like, what? You're a SEAL? And I've met guys, I'm like, really? But then you look at their eyes, I'm like, oh yeah, they're legit. You can just see it.
You don't necessarily have to have the big muscles or be doing all things like that. You just need to have it in the here. Your brain has to have muscles.
Exactly. Your brain is a muscle in a sense.
Yeah, it is. Final question. Just at the end of the chapter 9, yeah, you took down Tony. How did it feel taking down Tony? Like, this man who's been just tormenting you for ages for the first time.
Exhilarating. And how many times I replay that in my head, sweeping his foot and dumping him on his ass? I was like, okay, that's when I got the epiphany. Okay. That's when I woke up and said, now, and I got the whole idea. If I practice, I get better. If I practice, I get better. I'm staying. I made up my mind that day that I'm going to the end, to black belt. I'm going, which is not the end. But it gave me a goal. So I'm like, I'm going, I'm staying, and my uncle, I swear he still rolls on his grave. He thought it'd be a few months and I'd be done. I stayed for 3.5 years. And then I took all that discipline because, we had the 5, I'm trying to remember the 5 disciplines: honor, character, self-control, respect, discipline. I took all that and applied it to everything else.
Did Tony even have any of those?
No.
5?
Nope.
Thought so.
No, and I think he still lives he's 55 years old. He lives in his mother's three family. His brother owns the house and he's not married. Karma, as they say, is a bitch.
Yeah. And that chapter 9, has been my favorite so far. I was reading it, and when I saw that Tony walked into the dojo, I genuinely gasped. I was like, oh, for goodness sake, he's everywhere. You can't escape him. And then I just got this feeling of relief when he got booted out. I just thought that was another, karma. And then at the end of it just, double down on everything. You actually beat him up. You kicked him, swept him on the ground. That's just such a great chapter. It was good. It was good to read. Yeah.
It's gratifying.
Yeah.
It's gratifying. Anything else for me, sir?
No, that was the final question, and we're almost finished. We've got chapter 10, 11, and 12 to do. That's 3.
Awesome.
And I'll be reading 2 tomorrow, and then that'll leave 1, which I'll do probably the day after that, which is great.
And and so far, how are you enjoying the book?
Oh yeah, it's a brilliant book. It's really well written, and I'm really engaged into the story. Sometimes when I'm reading books, I wonder if I'm actually enjoying this or reading it because, well, I have to, But no, I'm genuinely enjoying this, and it's a really good book.
Our goal was it to read like a movie. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely see how this could be adapted, and I really want to see it. I know it would be really hard. Honestly, it would be. It's always watching documentaries about people making movies and stuff, and you just see the trouble that goes on behind the scenes. But in the end, it's always worth it, you know?
It's always worth it, brother. It's always worth it. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, young man. So what cup, kapum cup. That means hello, goodbye, and thank you very much for doing what you're doing.
What is it? Like the K? Is that how you do
Well,
it?
this is Thai. This is the double K.
Yeah, double K. All right. See ya. Bye bye.
Bye.